I want to give a bit of an introduction to assignment 2 for CSSE 1001/7030. And this assignment revolves around the popular card game Uno. And normally Uno is played with a deck of physical cards, but for this assignment we're actually going to emulate the Uno game with a computer program. And for the assignment, most of the program has been written for you. What you'll have to do is to write a few classes to complete the implementation of the game. What I'm going to talk about now is how the game Uno works, in case you don't know already. And I'm going to try and illustrate how it works by running you through the digital implementation of Uno. And this is the complete program. As I said, you won't be given the complete program, you'll be given a fair bit of it, and you'll have to do a few classes to complete the program. So on the screen here, what you can see is that we've got 3 players: Bray, Sydney Swayze, and Ramona Raimondi. And at the start of each game of Uno, the players are given 7 cards each. And in our digital implementation for the game of Uno, the player whose turn it is currently has a little red rectangle around them. So you can see this red rectangle currently for Sydney Swayze. That's because it's currently Sydney's turn. And you can see in these cards here that a lot of the cards will be the standard cards with a certain number and a color. There will, however, also be some special cards, and this one here indicates reverse the direction of turns. So if you put this card down and you're currently going around the circle of players in a clockwise direction, what happens after you put this card down is you start going in an anti-clockwise direction. Now you can see also that as well as having the 3 players who start with 7 cards each, there's 2 piles in the middle. And this is the pile for putting cards down onto, and this is the pile for picking cards up from. Another important thing that I need to mention is that in our particular digital implementation of Uno, we allow for a computer to be one of the players. That is, we've got an artificial intelligence player. And in this example we're running here, Ramona Raimondi is actually a computer player. The other 2 are human players. And we'll show you how that works a little bit later. Now the aim of the game of Uno is for each player to try and be the first to put down all of their cards. However, you can only put down cards according to certain rules of the game. Sometimes you're able to put down cards, sometimes you have to pick them up. Now in general, you can put cards down on this pile if you've got a card which matches, and it can match in either the number or the color. So for example, you could put this card down onto that pile because it's a yellow card, or you could put this card down because it's a 3, or you could put this card down because it's a 3 and a yellow. You could not put that card down, or that card, or that card, or that card. You could only put a card like this down if it was the same color as the one on top of the deck. This is green, this is yellow, so you cannot put that card down. Now, if you've in your whole set of cards, if it's your turn and you haven't got any matches, that means you can't put a card down on top of the deck. You have to pick one up from this pile. And in this digital version of Uno, the way you try to put a card down on the deck, if you have got a match, is you click on it. Now the digital version of the game will check that you are legitimately able to put the card down because you have a match. And if you haven't got a matching card and you need to pick one up, you click on this bit here, and that will add a card to your pile. So let's start the game off. Let's click on this 2, and this 2 should then be put onto that pile 3. Once that happens, Raimondi, it'll be her turn, and there'll be a little red rectangle around here. And because it's an AI version, we won't actually see what's happening. The computer will then just look at her cards, see what can be put on the pile, put a card on if it can, otherwise it'll pick it up, and then it will proceed on to Bray. So let's start. Let's put this card onto that pile. Now it's Ramona's turn. Now we've gone up to Bray. So when Ramona's turn occurred, the computer figured out that she had a 9, a yellow 9, which would match. So that was done, and we've now proceeded on to Bray. Now when we look at Bray's cards, we can see that there's really only one thing that can match, and that's this yellow card here. So we'll put this card on the pile, but before we do, we need to talk about what this special card is. It's a skip turn card. It will cause the next player to skip their turn. So let's click on this card, and it'll go onto the pile, and let's see what happens. Notice Ramona gets the red rectangle because Sydney missed his turn. The computer sorted out what needed to happen for Ramona. We didn't really see the details. We now know there's a red 0. It's Bray's turn again now. So when we look at Bray's cards now, we see that there are 2 cards here that could match. We can put down either the red 5 or the red 6 to match the red 0. And we're going to do that. Before we do that, however, it's worth talking about what this +2 means, this blue +2. This card means that if I put this down, supposing I had a blue card here and I put this +2 blue down, what that would mean is the next player would have to pick up 2 cards. So that's just by way of explaining what that +2 special card is. But for the situation at the moment, we've only got 2 cards that can match. I'm going to put the red 5 down on the pile. Now it's Sydney Swayze's turn. There's only 2 cards that can match. I'm going to put the 4 on the pile. So after Sydney had his turn, the computer moved on to Ramona, and then automatically the computer figured out what needed to be done, and what it did was to take this red card, put that on the pile. That is a skip turn card. So it meant the next person, Bray, lost his turn, and we're now back with Sydney having his turn again. So when we look at Sydney's cards, there is only one card that can match. It's the 2 because it's also red. So he put that on. Ramona had her turn. Looks like she had to pick up a card. And now we're back to Bray. The only card that could match is the 6. We'll put that down. Back to Sydney. Sydney has no cards that could match. There's no reds and there's no 6s. So he has to pick up a card. Ramona has her turn, and then we're back to Bray. It's Bray's turn now, and he can select this blue +2 card, which will cause Sydney to have to pick up 2 extra cards. So if we do press here, you notice that Sydney picked up those extra 2 cards. And the game keeps going on like this until eventually one of these players gets rid of all their cards and they are declared the winner. There is one other special card I need to talk to you about, and that is the +4 black card. This is the start of a new game, and a player called Stacey Stagg just happens to have 2 black +4 cards. Even though the card on this pile is green and she has no green cards, she can still use this special black +4 card. You can put that down at any time, and what will happen is that the following player has to have 4 cards picked up, and you saw those 4 cards being added to the computer player Loretta Lotz. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to explain how that black +4 card gets used, and it actually gets put in a special pile by itself. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say about how the digital game of Uno works. Now I want to talk a bit more about what you've got to do for your assignment. And as I said, you don't have to write the entire program to implement digital Uno. Most of that has been done for you. You have to write a relatively small number of classes to complete the program so that it works. And when it is working, you should get it working pretty much like this. So you'll know pretty much when you've got it working, when the program functions like this, and when you've done all the things that the assignment specification says that you need to do.